Yo, how's it going everybody? And welcome to a brand new series. And in this series we are going to be talking about my absolute personal favorite library for React, Material UI. Now look. I know that there's so many tutorials, so many courses on YouTube for this, but we're gonna have some fun with it. We're gonna have some laughs, some gaffs, and some halves. I don't know what any of that means, but by the end of this series, you should have a pretty solid understanding of how to work with this library, at least I hope. And without further ado, let's get into it. Alrighty, so I have opened up the documentation for this library. It's just MUI.com. The link to this is in the description down below. And the very first thing you see is the React library, the React UI library you've always wanted. And underneath it says MUI provides a robust, customizable, and accessible library of foundational and advanced components, enabling you to build your design system and develop React applications faster. I agree with that. I agree with that. And you can see some examples of components that they have right here. They have a simple card, a calendar. This is something that looks like a Spotify player or a music player, some tabs, a slider, buttons, etc. And so what we're going to do, we're going to click on Get Started. And in this video, we're just going to be talking about how to actually install this into our React project. In the next video, we'll start to learn about the basics and how to actually go on from there. Alrighty, so the first thing that we can see right here is the installation process. We can see that there's two different options we have with npm and yarn, and all it installs is the Material UI, emotion, and emotion style. Initially, Material UI is using the emotion styling engine by default. If we want to use styled components, we would have to use these commands right here, but we're just going to stick with these commands right here. Now before we do install this, let's go a little bit lower. We will see that by default, Material UI was designed with Roboto font in mind, but if we want to change it, we are able to change it in the typography. We're not going to talk about this. We're not going to talk about that in this tutorial. We'll talk about that when we cover typography. After that, we have font icons, and after that, we have the SVG icons. Now, one of my really cool and favorite things about this library is that it has really nice pre-built icons, a part of the actual library, and we can install it using just Material UI /icons-material. So without further ado, let's actually go ahead and implement this into a React app. Alrighty, so I've opened up my VS Code, and by default it opened up the Mantine course. If you want to learn all about Mantine, there should be a card that pops up in the top right corner of the screen. And I'm in the desktop, and the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a simple React app. So what I'm going to do is npx create-react-app, and I'll call it MUI course, and let that do its magic. Alrighty, so I have the app installed, and what we're going to do now is we are going to go back into the documentation, and we're going to copy the npm install command right here. If you're using yarn, you can copy yarn, but since I've installed npm primarily on my computer, that's what I'll use. And I'm going to open up a quick terminal, clear this, and I'll go ahead and paste it. Now before we press enter, we also want to install our icons. So at the very bottom, I'm going to scroll until I'll see the SVG icons right here, and I'll copy this little snippet right here since we already had the npm install in the beginning, and press enter and let it work its magic once again. Alrighty, so everything is installed, and I also npm started, and we can see that it runs successfully. Now what we're going to do is go back into our VS Code, and I'm going to open up my source folder and open up the app.js file, and we'll just put in a basic button just to make sure that everything is connected and working. So I'll just get rid of that template code, and I'll put in button for Material UI, and I'll type inside of here, this is a bouton. And if I press save, we know that this is from Material UI since it's being imported from Material UI. So now if I go back into our app, we will see that this is a simple button right there. Let me zoom in a little bit. There we go. Alrighty, now before I conclude this tutorial, I just want to make sure that we have our icons imported. So I'm going to go back into the documentation, and in the search field right here, I'm just going to search up icons, and I'm going to click on this third link right here, which is going to take us to all of the available icons that we have in this library. So we'll just pick out a basic one. Let's select this person right here, and I'll just copy it. So we have different sizes here. We have a small, a medium, and large, but we're just going to copy the basic one and go back into our VS Code, and I'll import it at the very top right here. And just to make sure that's working, I'll call it right here. So accessibility icon, And now if we go back into the app, we should see a man right there. Perfect. So now we have everything installed and connected to our app. Alrighty, that concludes this tutorial. If y'all enjoyed this, be sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see y'all in the next one. Peace.